Welcome to the Political Vigilante, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Graham Elwood. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share this out, support us at patreon.com/Graham Elwood or rockfin.com/Graham Elwood, where for $10 a month, you get bonus content from me, from our guest, Dave Anthony, and everybody else on the platform. Dave, I wanted to talk to you about, since Biden might eke out a win, and even so, it's like whatever, but what's happening around the country? We've talked about Mississippi passing marijuana, Florida passing $15 an hour minimum wage. We're seeing Oregon, like all these progressive.
Well, the Oregon one, that's a hard drug legalization.
Yes.
Cocaine and heroin.
And like
fantastic.
They're decriminalizing it because addiction is a health issue. It's not a criminal issue. And right. If somebody commits a violent crime because of drugs, okay, fine, then prosecute them for that violent crime. But don't just wanting to get high. It's like, well, that's not, it's a health issue. Addiction is a health issue, and it should be treated as a health issue. Just like, oh man, we're going to outlaw insulin because these goddamn, diabetic addicts are causing problems. We don't treat diabetes that way. So all of these progressive things, which are so blowing up the Democrats' whole thing of going after suburban Republicans to vote for them. And Joe Biden, he's not having if he wins, it's not going to be a landslide. It's not some mandate, but all these progressive policies are happening. But also in Los Angeles, we've been talking about this we've been talking about the importance of city councils. I've been saying it on the show. Kshama Sawant in Seattle, how much power she has just as a city council member. So much so that Jeff Bezos feels threatened by her, spends $1.5 million to try to defeat her, and Bezos still loses. So this is a candidate for city council that you were very much behind in Los Angeles, who is still in the lead. She won. They're calling it.
It got called a couple hours ago.
This is huge. So. Yeah. This is in the LA Times. Angry voters, higher turnout, Hollywood money, how Nithya Raman gained an edge in LA. By the time voters cast their ballots, the 39-year-old Silver Lake resident had become a powerful symbol for progressive activists, not just across the city, but in other parts of the country, securing the endorsement of Bernie Sanders. Her opponent got the endorsement of Nancy Pelosi.
And Hillary Clinton.
And
Dianne Feinstein.
All voted against the woman of color.
They didn't vote. They just all against the woman of color. They all said we support the other person, which is really common for Nancy Pelosi. I would say Nancy Pelosi endorses more white people against people of color than any other maybe congressperson out there.
Of course, she's a rich white lady.
Thing. Yeah.
She's well, votes are still being counted, although now we know that she won. She's unseating Councilman David, making him the first LA council member to be ousted in 17 years.
Okay, so this is are you going to go into why? Because this is fascinating. Why 17 years?
Let me just go this real quick. She had represents a political earthquake for City Hall. Raman offered a detailed progressive policy platform calling for the creation of a network of homeless access centers, arguing for LAPD to become a much smaller armed force, and promoting a rent forgiveness plan that would deliver cash reimbursements to small landlords and tax credits to larger ones. This is another progressive but let's go into this, Dave. So you followed this you followed her, you promoted her. So tell us, break it down for people, the history of this.
So the thing about the city council is nobody really pays attention. It's just always gone under the radar. And LA City Council, it's a weak mayoral system, which means the mayor doesn't actually have that much power. It's all the budget and everything's all in the hands of the city council. And the city council is just owned by developers and rich people. That's just all it is. And they get everything they want. And no one was paying attention to it for years. And they voted together 97% of the time. So that right there tells you that is a corrupt, insane organization. And so, at some point, someone was like, city councils are really important. Chicago had some great movement, Philadelphia, Seattle, and now it was like, well, we're LA, we got to have something. And there's a guy on there, I can't remember his name there now, but he's pretty left. They already have one pretty left person. And then she started running, and she had been in City Hall for a little while, always working on homeless stuff and not getting anywhere. She just couldn't get anywhere. Like, it just, nobody gave a shit. And so she went out and started her own organization, and really came up with really interesting ways and non-punitive ways to deal with the homeless. How to get them showers, how to get all the stuff that they need to exist or to get jobs. Like, it's not about punishing or pushing them somewhere. It's about getting
dignity.
them out of it. Yeah, it's about getting them out of it and making them feel better, and not just being in this spiral. I mean, imagine if you're homeless. Like, what? Like, I have some shit go wrong in the day, and I'm like, oh, I can't do anything. Like, it's just the mindset to be able to climb out of that is astonishing. So she really had ideas, and she took those ideas again to city hall and the city council, and they're like, nah. So she's like, fuck this, I'm going to run. And she is our AOC. She's the West Coast AOC. I don't just see her for city council. I want to see her move up. I hope that someday she's mayor and then goes from there. Like, she's the real deal.
It also magnifies a point that I say a lot on this show, is how important, everybody wants some progressive president to come in and sort of wave a magic wand, but I'm like, the local elections in some ways are way more important. Joe Biden is not going to fix the homeless problem in Los Angeles or any other city. I don't know how Bernie could have allocated some federal funds or whatever, but like, this is a municipal issue. This is what a city council, and as you've said, in Los Angeles and other cities are very similar. The city council has way more power than you think. And, this is important. I mean, getting more people on your city council that are actually reflecting the values that we want. I mean, you can't, that's the developers. I mean, how are all these big buildings in LA built week after block after block? There's still, some of them are still being built in this pandemic.
No one's doing anything about it. No one is questioning why they're all being built, and if they're being built for low-income people, or they're all being built for high-income people. They all are. And it's not just city councils, it's transportation boards. It's fucking water boards.
Yep.
Like, we got to take over all this shit. We leftists are the majority in these cities. We have to take it all. Take it all.
Yeah, that's what I say. I go, don't look for some savior. Go run for your school board. Go run for your water board. Go run for your city council. Go run. Go do it. And that's, they can't stop everything. That's when people are like, oh, I don't vote, it's all rigged. I go, they can rig it on the national level, but they can't rig every city count. They can't do it. Especially if we all get on all these city councils, there's nothing they can do. I mean, there's another.
If we start attacking them in every race, they are spread so goddamn thin, and they're so focused on the big money shit. They're so focused on the huge stuff that we start sliding into all these places. We spread their bullshit so thin if we attack them everywhere. If we have leftists running for everything, they are in a lot of fucking trouble, and we get a lot of things.
Well, here's another example of that. Baldwin Park, which is another city in Southern California. It's not a huge city, but guess what? Oh, a young green just beat a mayor who'd been there for 26 years. The Green Party now has a mayor in LA County. I mean, this is amazing.
That's funny.
26-year-old Green Party member. That changes everything, because that's not, and look, Baldwin Park is not some city in the middle of nowhere, but even if it was, that'd be great. It is a part of Southern California. It is a part of LA. I mean, it's got a huge, and it has an influence. And what happens when you have a green and who's a mayor? Well, then that city can implement all of these green policies and even its own Green New Deal that other cities go, well, shit, we want to do that. Like, that's why it's so powerful.
There's a great thing I was watching. I was just watching what different cities in Europe are doing with COVID happening. And there's Austria. They're like turning up parking lots into parks. And I was watching that, and I was like, yeah, if you get some people in control of Baldwin Park, and you start doing that kind of thing, then people in the next city over go, well, what the fuck is? How come it's awesome over there?
Yeah,
why can't we
have this?
And once you start creating a non-dystopian world, things change.
Yeah.
Things start to change.
And it's like all the how are we going to pay for it? And that's pie in the sky. No, it's not. They did it in Baldwin Park. They literally just did it in Baldwin Park. What are you talking about? Like, oh, that can't happen. Or, well, Baldwin Park's a small city. Well, no. The Seattle City Council just voted for this, and the LA City Council. And that's why the LA City Council, again, coming back to that, is so important. And it also looks like Gascon is going to defeat Jackie Lacey. And not that he's some lefty hero, but she has sided with the cops unit. She's the district attorney in Los Angeles, right? For the audience out there. And she will not prosecute a cop to save her life. Black Lives Matter has been protesting on Wednesdays outside of her office for years. The Wednesday after George Floyd was murdered, that protest all of a sudden used to have a couple hundred people. Now there was like 20,000 people down in LA, and it got big, and they shut down a freeway, and then some cop drove his car through people. Like that was Jackie Lacey, man. And she looks like she's going to be defeated. So it's like,
she's going down.
It's this is how you do it.
That's a big one. And they did that in Philadelphia. They took over the DA's office a couple years ago, Krasner, and that made a huge difference. Getting rid of your district attorney is enormous. It's enormous. It changes everything as far as what's being prosecuted. The cops are like, charge this guy with a small pot thing. No, like that. That's what you can do as the district attorney. Cops bring in a thing, and you go, this looks like bullshit. Fuck off. Yeah.
Yeah. Where's your body cam footage? Oh, the camera malfunctioned. Okay, bullshit. Sorry. You smell that shit out. And that's why, again, these local elections are so critical. Your state representatives. Look, 3 years ago, the state of California could have had single-payer healthcare. The California Democrats, which control the state, control the whole party, voted it down. Anthony Rendon was one of the people that voted it down. Imagine if we had a bunch of progressives and Greens. And this is the thing, the Green Party, I wasn't that excited about Howie Hawkins. I understand why some people voted for him and whatever. He is the author of the Green New Deal. But it's more significant that there's a Green mayor in one of the big suburbs of the second largest city in America. That's huge. That's huge. And that's what we need more of. We need more Greens, more openly socialists, Democratic socialists, Labor Party people, People's Party. That's what we need. That's how it's going to change, as I see it. So, well, Dave Anthony, thanks for taking time out of the day. Where can people watch and follow and listen to everything you're doing?
I am, I'm at the Dollop podcast. I do that. I also do a podcast called The West Wing Thing, where we watch the West Wing each week, and we discuss how it has absolutely destroyed the liberal mind in America, and how they don't know how to govern because they all think it's a TV show.
It's
and then I'm
more sophisticated than anything the KGB did.
It's really bad. I mean, it's really bad. When you get into it, you're just like, oh, how are these? They really, and you see it every day. Someone tweets something out and you're just like, you think you're in the West Wing, but it's reality. We're talking about reality. Did you see the Deborah Messing tweet?
Oh God, I can't read what she says. What kind of nonsense did she post? Like,
she put up a tweet directed at Donald Trump, and it said, this is how a leader handles the situation. And then showed a video of Gore's concession speech.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, we tried. Yeah, that's the time Al Gore was totally okay with the Secretary of State of Florida throwing out 170,000 ballots.
When they stole the election and he rolled over. Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
that's right.
That one. That's the bold leadership of the Democrats. He just bent over and gave the guy a thing of KY and said, "Put your whole fist in." That one, got it.
Yeah,
okay,
that's it.
Okay. Anyway, West Wing sounds like, I'm glad you're breaking people, because you were telling me about this West Wing podcast, because I remember watching it 20 years ago or whatever, going, oh man, Aaron Sorkin's got good writing or whatever. And then now I'm like, well, I went back and watched it again like a year or two ago, and I was like, Jesus Christ, this is so. How that podcast is waking people up, right? The way you're breaking it down.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know it would wake people up like this. We are getting a lot of liberals that are like, this show completely radicalized me. Like I just went in thinking, oh, it'll be a critique thing. And they're like, no, I'm a crazy socialist. Like, I don't know what it is about it, but I think that show really has, I think it's built into people's DNA who are liberals. And when you start to break it down and go, and then they start questioning, well, what am I? I don't believe these things. I actually believe we should have Medicare for all. And I actually believe in all this stuff. And we break down that the show is explaining to them why no one should have anything. And then they start to question everything. And they look at the Democratic Party and they go, oh my God, they're doing the same thing the show did. And then they start to sort of just walk away. It's really interesting. I didn't think it would have this effect, but we're getting a lot of people saying it radicalized them.
Well, because everybody knows they're being lied to in one form or another. Now, that being lied to can open people up to going down the QAnon road and being crazy or just whatever, or selective conspiracies. Fox News is lying, but MSNBC's fine, and vice versa. But when people really get introspective, and this thing, it's finding out a family member was a criminal when you love them or something like that. I mean, if you grew up watching West Wing, especially if you were like young, you know what I mean? Like you were a teenager or college, when you're getting open to the world and you're like, oh yeah, it's this liberal utopia in the middle of George W. Bush's hellscape or whatever it was. And then now you're older and you go, Jesus, were we lied to? Like, man, it's all bullshit. And like, because everything is being questioned, we're tearing down Christopher Columbus statues. So people are like, man, some people are resorting back to being more conservative or whatever. They're doubling down on whatever, all lives matter. But some people are going, I've had a lot of conversations with white people especially since the George Floyd thing, of like, yeah, I did have a lot of privilege. Wow. I didn't realize that. I didn't no, yeah, I worked hard and was rewarded in a system that rewards me, that I even had access. Like, everyone's realizing, boy, that's a lot of privilege. So people are starting to question more. And your podcast is probably helping open that up, I would imagine.
It is. And they think they idolize the show in the sense that I really wish we could have a president like this. I mean, that's what they all say. I wish that there was a White House like this. But when you go, okay, but those are the people, but what did that White House do? And it turns out that White House does nothing. It never accomplishes anything. It does stupid shit. Like, there's 2 openings on the Supreme Court, and it seats a conservative and a liberal. Like, it does really bad stuff.
Wait a minute now. Has anything like that happened recently? I'm trying to remember. Is there an episode where they asked Ruth Bader Ginsburg to step down during and then she doesn't? Oh, no, that's what really happened. Okay.
Yeah, that's how you really lose your country.
Oh.
And there's really no ideology to the show. The show is very conservative, and there's characters against unions and affirmative action, and against make fun of environmentalists, and they say we need to put our boots on Mecca. Like, it's just all very right-wingy bullshit. But then when you get into stuff, and like, there's an episode where the first lady comes out against child slavery, and they all get mad at her because it's the wrong time, and they ended up having her back off of child slavery, and I'm just like, so that's your fantasy. So you get to write your own TV show,
right?
And your fantasy is that you're not going to say anything bad about child slavery. So that's your crazy fantasy of how the world should work. Like, that's woo, man. You're just a fucking rainbow of just hope. And
if I find a genie in a bottle, I'm going to ask for kind of affordable health care and maybe a slightly lower car payment. I think that's what I'm going to, if Genie will give me any 3 wishes I want, that's what I'm going to ask for.
And that's what the whole show is. And you point that out to people, and you go, what is it that you love about this show? Because this is really horrendous. And they're always horse trading. They're like, okay, we'll give up giving funding to young mothers who they'll take less money, and then we'll actually give more money for kids who get milk in school. And you're just like, what if everybody gets that? Like, what in the fuck are you doing? How do you have a show that nothing is good? It's just mind-boggling.
It shows you the hijacking of Hollywood by like the deep state, the intelligence community. Like Hollywood, as you know, the CIA has had offices in Hollywood since the late 40s or early 50s, but they've really infiltrated shows like that. And big, you know, when NBC was owned by General, because you go back and you watch, like, that's why the 60s and when the studio system collapsed in the late 60s and 70s, and artists, they literally said that, you know, the inmates were running the asylum, when actual artists were running the studios and making decisions. You had a TV show like Star Trek, which, you know, is kind of campy now, but if you look at what Gene Roddenberry was doing, he was projecting this future. You know, there was an episode where it was literally nicknamed the Vietnam veterans, the Vietnam War episode, because the Klingons and the Starfleet were each funding the sides of two tribes on this it was like, wow, Gene Roddenberry was so brilliant. You know, there's stuff that like doesn't hold, like, okay, women would have mini skirts in the future in space. Like, got it. You know, but you know, Uhuru was the first ever Black woman in a position of power on TV. She was a lieutenant, and the first ever interracial kiss was on that show. And you watch shows like that. You watch like Planet of the Apes. You watch The Twilight Zone. You watch these movies like Deer Hunter or Network or 3 Days of the Condor, which were just like really challenging things, really challenging the status quo, really challenging the power. And then the big corporations took over in the 80s, and then the blockbuster came out. And then you have TV shows like West Wing, which dupe liberals into thinking this is some liberal utopia, but we're all getting lulled to sleep by nice dialogue and folksy Martin Sheenisms. And underneath it is, like you say, all this right. When you watch it again, I watched it, I was like, this is right wing. This is a pro CIA show. This is like,
I mean, he loves nothing more than the FBI and the military, and like it's like the adoration of the military is just off the fucking charts. Like, and I can't tell you how many times that they've done some rescue mission and some guy in the country like gets on the plane and like, well, you can't come on our plane. And you're like, you're invading a fucking country. What do you mean? That's his country. They're like, you can't shoot at us. You're attacking his country. He can't shoot at you. Like, it's just the craziest right-wing shit. It's really fucking awful.
So anyway, I was just going to ask you about that to get some plugs in, but then we went on a 20-minute how often like on the CIA and Hollywood, which was valid. But tell everyone again what that show is, where the Dollop. Tell everyone where they can watch all your stuff.
Dollop, you know, you can find the Dollop podcast on any podcast network, and also the West Wing thing. And then we have some videos of the Dollop on YouTube on the All Things Comedy channel, but we've stopped doing it because of COVID, but hopefully we can get back to that soon.
And you're going to start posting on Rockfin correct?
Yes, I'm going to start doing political stuff on Rockfin.
Nice.